I've seen some incredible lineups before, but nothing quite like this. And I only had to travel 2,000 miles to come see it. We are here today at Velocity Invitational in Sonoma, California. I traveled all the way from Chicago to come here, and honestly, the trip was worth it because right here we have a Mercedes CLK GTR Roadster, one of 6, absolute unicorn. Never seen one of these in person before, and this is only a precursor for what's to come because on the other side of me, my left-hand side, we've got a Pagani Zonda F, and not just any Zonda F, the Zonda F that broke the Nürburgring lap record for production cars. I have absolutely no words right now, and these are only a precursor of what's to come. This is part of an incredible hypercar lineup, which is part of an even more incredible event full of course, hypercars, historic race cars from all eras, and just a whole bunch of amazing parts of car culture, all represented here at Sonoma Raceway. But I cannot wait to be here today. Can't wait to be here for the whole weekend. So sit back, relax, and this is Velocity Invitational. And these two cars are incredibly special in and of themselves. I mean, I'm in absolute shock and awe right now. I've been staring at these for the last 15 minutes and still really don't have many words to say because these are two cars that I've lusted after since I was a kid. The CLK and all the old Need for Speed games, and the Zonda, well, it's one of my absolute favorite cars of all time. Getting to see one of these is always an absolute honor. I've only ever seen one Zonda before, so to get to see one today is very nice. But as I mentioned before, these two cars are only a precursor, because if I move on from the Zonda, we have an Apollo Intensa Emozione, one of only 10 units in the world. I mean, what the hell? This is probably the craziest hypercar in the world. I know a lot of people say this car looks like a Batmobile, but I mean, this is pretty damn close to how you would draw a Batmobile as a kid, with all the aero, all the scoops, all the vents, all the just incredible design, and of course, the massive wing. And the spec in and of itself is absolutely nuts because in the front, you have purple carbon, right? Pretty normal for most really expensive hypercars. But as you follow the door, it begins to fade into paint. So at the back of the car, it's full paint, full metallic paint, rather than just a tinted exposed carbon at the front. Absolutely wild. Not many cars are like this, but not many cars are an Apollo IE. So I guess that pretty much works. Most hypercars nowadays go for these exposed carbon finishes, and that's not bad. I mean, on the Zonda, it looks pretty damn cool, but I always love a good paint color, and this is just something else. And I would like to point out that those are racing tires. That means that at some point, this will be going out on the track and doing some business. So look for that. And also, I love the exhaust system for this, the full titanium system made specifically for this car. That is a $40,000 exhaust system right there. Absolutely wild. And next to it, somehow feeling overshadowed in a way, a Pagani Huayra Roadster, same owner as the Zonda right there, in this gorgeous red carbon finish. I know I just mentioned that I do prefer paintwork, but the right carbon finish is just absolutely nuts. And this, I think, is the highest mile customer Huayra Roadster in the world with over 45,000 miles. That's right, 45,000 miles. It's been on a bunch of cross-country trips. I mean, that's how you own a hypercar. You just drive the crap out of it and enjoy it, because most of these cars are put away in garages, maybe driven a couple times a year for events, but this one is certainly not like that. This is a high-mile car that's been driven and enjoyed and continues to do so, but it's just an absolute honor to get to see all this. And of course, there's more cars over there too. And here we are sitting inside the Huayra Roadster, a sentence I never thought I'd ever say. Huge thank you to the owner for letting me do this. He saw that I was filming, and here I am in a car that actually has 49,500 miles and will hit 50,000 this week, which is just absolutely wild. This is how to own a hypercar, guys. I mean, if you are watching and you are in the lucky enough position to own one of these cars, I ask you, drive your stuff, because I mean, this is just absolutely incredible. And the car itself is also rather comfortable. I've never been in a Pagani before, surprisingly enough, but this is actually really cool. I love the interior of the Huayras, just all of the milled titanium, just pieces that take hours upon hours, maybe even days to create, and what you get is an absolute work of art. So, I mean, this is a lot to take in, but a huge thank you to the owner for letting me sit in this car, because, well, a day with a Pagani is always special, but a day in a Pagani, well, that's incredibly special. And on the other side of the CLK, we have a Senna, the Senna VX, white with the blue, very nice spec. Saw this car at SEMA last year. Also got a wrapped blue 918 Spider. I initially thought this was paint, so I was very excited because the spec is absolutely immaculate. Love the HRE wheels on it, but this is only a wrap, but that's okay, because next to it, McLaren Speedtail, dark blue, tan interior, from Lamborghini Newport Beach. Very, very lovely spec with the silver wheels, absolute class. I actually love the Speedtail. It is a car that is very much hated on for various reasons. You know, it's not necessarily the most special of McLarens made in the past few years, but I've always really been intrigued by the design. I really like the center seat, harking back to the F1, which makes it a very unique product in McLaren's modern range. And it has no rearview mirrors either, which makes it ineligible for US DOT regulation. So it is here under show and display, as all Speedtails are, but it is still an incredible car nonetheless. And next to that, a blue Chiron Pure Sport. This is actually my favorite Pure Sport spec in the world. I had no idea this was going to be here until I just walked up to it this morning. Blue with the gold. That is very much the theme of my channel. Obviously you see my logo, blue and gold. That is my color scheme, and getting to see that on a Bugatti, my favorite Chiron variant. I love the Pure Sport so much. It is just super, super cool. And you just see the gold go throughout the car, starting at the front, on the C, and obviously on the wheels. I mean, the Pure Sport is just something special, and getting to see it in my color scheme is even more special. What a noise. Being unloaded now is a Senna GTR. I don't know if you can hear me right now. What an insane livery this is. The yellow with the blue and the black. Gosh, I mean, I'm a huge sucker for cool liveries on track-ready hypercars. Not many of them get them, but McLaren certainly does a good job with their GTRs. And I mean, the Senna GTR is just one of the craziest looking hypercars of all time. I know we just saw an Apollo IE, which I think outshines it quite a bit in terms of crazy design language, but if we take it at face value, this is also just nuts. And while we're still on the hypercar topic, here's one that has been on the channel before, actually a few weeks ago, as a matter of fact. The silver Ferrari Enzo that I saw at the FCA Concours up in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and now it's here in sunny Sonoma, California. And this car's also come from Florida too, so it's really cool to see it in two completely different places where the car isn't local. And the Enzo, growing up for me, was my second favorite car behind the F50, and this particular one in Grigio Titanio is an absolutely gorgeous spec. I'm just in love with this car. Getting to see it in all different lights up in Elkhart Lake was also extremely cool, and now getting to see it in the desert sun is also very cool. And well, it's always a good time with an Enzo, and this time not surrounded by people, which is another plus. So seeing an Enzo is special in and of itself, but I will concede that it's probably not as special as seeing one of these, a 288 GTO. Very, very limited production car, one of only 272 units made for the world. Ferrari's Group B homologation car that never ended up racing. And seeing one is just an absolute honor. But seeing two next to each other, well, that's just otherworldly. The 288 is one of my absolute favorite cars from the Ferrari back catalog because, as I described in the Road America video, I'm not sure which of these was in that video. They are absolutely identical, but it's essentially a 308 on crack with turbochargers, making double the power. It is just super, super cool. And the car very much paved the way for Ferrari supercars moving on. I mean, the F40 was loosely based off of this car, and then later you had the F50, the Enzo, like over there, the LaFerrari, and the upcoming F250, which is going to be unveiled in just a couple of days now. But this was the genesis. This was the beginning of the Ferrari supercar line as we know it today. And well, getting to see two of them next to each other here is just wow. And seeing a 288 GTO is cool in and of itself, but seeing one of these, well, I've never seen one of these. Can't really tell you what it's like, but this is the Vector W8 Twin Turbo, America's first ever supercar, and this is just insane. Owning up to the 80s and 90s aesthetic of just a crazy wedge, crazy angles. I mean, you put this next to a Countach, it is lower, it is wider, there are more angles to it. And just looking at that rear end, this is something out of science fiction. This is just nuts. Now these cars were very interestingly built. This has a 3-speed automatic transmission from a Winnebago. But it also shares the same general head design as my 87 IROC Camaro. So this is basically my car, in a way. And of course, as this is a racing event, there are a wide variety of incredible race cars from the past and the present, including this Porsche 962, as one does. But walking along, I mean, you got incredible prototypes, incredible GT cars, and some absolute icons as well, such as this, the Mercedes CLK GTR, the racing version. Earlier we saw the Roadster version, that's the road-going variant that helped homologate the race car, just like this, in the insane original teal livery with the blue and the yellow, kind of matching in a way the Senna from earlier. Obviously the Senna wasn't in that livery, but this car is just wild. And to get to see it out on track this weekend, get to see it out on track in just a couple of hours too, well, that'll be absolutely insane. So look out for that. But walking along, I mean, just icons like the PlayStation Viper. Absolutely love this car. Just a wild, wild story with these cars racing at Le Mans and just really doing America proud, and that livery is just oh so cool as well. And walking along, we have more GT cars like 997 Cup cars, an Audi R8 LMS, a 458 GT3, and something that is just absolutely insane, a Ferrari 599 XX Evoluzione. Never seen one of these before, which seems to be a common trend today. And this paint is insane as well. Looks like Rosso Fiorano because it is a metallic paint. But looking over here, just from all angles, it is absolutely I can't say that on YouTube. Crazy. Oh my God, what an icon from my youth. Getting to see this car finally in person after so many years of driving this in various racing games and beating Darius Flint on Forza Horizon 1 with that car. Just super, super, super cool. And this is gonna go out on track this weekend. I cannot wait. And there are a bunch of hidden gems here at Velocity, like this garage over here, which if we walk in, is a collection of Formula One cars, raced used cars in fact, with just the most incredible stories like this 97 Ferrari F310B raced by Michael Schumacher. And this car was involved in a very heavy accident at the Spanish Grand Prix back in '97. But a Ferrari driven by Schumacher is just absolutely incredible. We've also got the Arrows footwork car. These were the cars with the Porsche 12-cylinder engines, which is just absolutely wild. And walking along, just a wild, wild collection like this Dallara, super, super cool. It's a GP2 car. And then these two Lotuses, two absolute icons. The 48R1 from 1967 and the 1976 77/3. Two cars that were driven by some of the most coveted names in the sport, Jim Clark, Mario Andretti. Absolutely wild. And the two most iconic Lotus liveries, let's be honest, the green and the yellow, and of course the John Player special livery. Two very, very, very special cars amongst a lineup of even more special cars. Well, this is just the case with everything here at Velocity Invitational. And there are some absolutely insane classic cars here from RM Sotheby's, starting off with a pair of Mercedes 300 SL Gullwings, a very nice one and a very, very not so nice one. But this particular car is from the Rudy Klein collection. This was a collection of the most incredible coveted supercars from the 50s and 60s, all thrown into a junkyard and just lost to time. All these cars are going to go up for auction in the not too distant future. And these are cars like Lamborghini Miuras, Porsche 356s, very, very, very special stuff. And joining this car is a Ferrari 250 short wheelbase. Not the only one here, as well as a 250 Testarossa. Insane. And to say that this is also not the only one here is even more insane. And turning around a race car based on the 550, love the 550 so much, and the racing variants it spawned. This particular car was built by IDR out in Arizona. Super cool shop, super cool guys. I've talked with them in the past. Next to it, a nice burgundy Singer Porsche 911 and a Ferrari 330 GTS. Love these cars. We're back over by the Hypercars now because the Apollo's open. And of course, gull-wing doors are super cool. Don't see it on many cars nowadays, but just take a look at all of the purple in that interior. What a wild interior to match what is probably the most wild exterior of any car in production, probably. You could probably debate me on that in the comments, but I think they're about to start this thing up, so let's take a quick listen. And off it goes. And now the Zonda's starting. Rather getting overshadowed by the NASCARs, but still really good noise. Now we're over by the front gate with a couple of pretty cool cars. Got an SV Coupe, very nice blue on that one. Not sure what shade it is, but it is rather overshadowed by this, the Murcielago RGT, Lamborghini's race car version of the Murci. These are extremely rare, partially because nobody wanted to race these because they kind of sucked in every class they raced in, but here is one of them. This, I think, is the first car because, I mean, you see 001 right there, but this is absolutely insane. Finished in Grigio Telesto with a cool little racing-inspired wrap on this. I'm not exactly sure the history of this car, but I'm inclined to believe that this never actually raced. Though I could be wrong about that. If anybody can correct me in the comments, that would be greatly appreciated. But this is super, super cool. Not an e-gear, not a manual. It is a sequential, the only Murcielago variant with one of those gearboxes. Center lock wheels, racing slicks. I mean, this is just absolutely insane. Got the roof scoop here, sort of reminiscent of the Diablo GTR in a way, and of course the huge fixed wing in the back. This is a super, super cool car. Very cool to see it out today, and well, I really do hope to see this on track. I'm not sure if it'll be out this weekend, but I'll certainly hold out some hope that it will be. So a little more time has progressed, and we found some more Formula One cars, also with almost zero people around, with some incredible history. So we got this 1972 Williams, super, super cool car, but then next to it, a pair of McLarens, a 77 and a 78, M26, M24. This car was driven by James Hunt the year after he won his first and only F1 World Championship. Very special car, this one. And then a completely different livery on the other side, which is super, super cool. Walking along, got two more cars, which just nuts. Another McLaren, this particular one from 1974, and a 1975 M16E. Also four completely different liveries across these 4 years. McLaren is very much known for the Marlboro livery, like on that 77, but here are three lesser known liveries. And here we have a selection of rally cars, more specifically Group B rally cars brought by the Dirtfish Rally School, which is just absolutely nuts. We have a Lancia Delta S4, which looks initially like a civilized hatchback until you realize that this was the era when you would take these civilized hatchbacks and throw the engines in the middle. Now this particular engine is super cool. It is supercharged and turbocharged. Makes over 500 horsepower, which in a package this small with all-wheel drive, this thing would do 0 to 60 on gravel in 2 seconds. That is modern hypercar territory, or beyond modern hypercar territory in the 80s on gravel. Absolutely wild. Next to it, an Audi Quattro, the S1E2, with the insane aerodynamics and the cool Bosch rally lights. This is an absolutely iconic rally car. Audi's first rally car, and the ultimate iteration of that, the turbocharged 5-cylinder in these, was absolutely iconic. An engine that is still sort of around today in the form of the RS3, but this was the genesis of that. Super, super cool car, but my favorite of the three here is this Lancia 037, the last rear-wheel drive car to win the World Rally Championship. It's mid-engine, it's rear-wheel drive, and it beat the original versions of the Quattro on the rally stages. It was an underdog. It was definitely not the favorite to win the championship because it didn't have all-wheel drive, but it did anyways. and that story is absolutely incredible. The 1983 rally season, the rivalry between Lancia and Audi, what an incredible story that is. Very much the rallying equivalent of Ford versus Ferrari. And now we have the two contenders here today, which is super cool. Here we are in the Mobile One area with some very cool stuff I've actually seen before, like this Toyota pickup truck, the Stout, this insane hill climb drift build built for and by Ryan Turk. And he also brought this, which initially looks like a modified A90 Supra, but if you know, you know. This car has ditched the BMW inline six and has replaced it with a Formula One Judd V10. One of the most insane sounding cars. I hope to get to hear this sometime this weekend on track because, I mean, Judd V10s, if you've watched my Road America videos, I mean, they're just the absolute best. And moving on is a car I got to see at SEMA last year, the Half 11, this crazy sort of Porsche thing with an LS in the back. This thing has been all over the internet the last year and a half, being driven all over the place, getting shown in all these different places. It went up the hill at Goodwood earlier this year, and now it's here at Velocity. Super, super cool car. And in complete contrast, we have a Lexus LFA. I actually don't think I've ever filmed an LFA on the channel before. 2 years of doing this, never had an LFA. But here's one, very nice silver, black calipers. This car is an absolute classic in the making and sort of already has become a cult classic, and the values certainly are indicative of that. I mean, these cars are now trading for well over $700,000 for a Lexus, which is absolutely nuts. And moving on, we have a Ford Thunderbird NASCAR, plenty of classic NASCARs here this weekend, and a modified 996 GT2 in a very cool livery. Like that a lot. And I'm taking another quick walk through the Hypercar section, and it's just really cool to get to compare the CLK GTR Roadster, the road car, to the race car. Here we are over at Michelin with this, an absolute monster, the Mercedes GT raw spec. This car is essentially the AMG GT3 car, but unhinged, not adhering to any regulations. This car is just nuts. Now, same as the regular GT3, this car shares the 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8 from the SLS, as a matter of fact, but this one has been heavily modified to go to circuits all over the world and essentially break records. It broke the all-time lap record, I think in general, but probably for GT cars, over at Mount Panorama in Australia, until it was broken again a week later, but it had the record. And just look at this aero, it's absolutely nuts. I don't think you can have something like that in regular GT3 racing. Now, the car in and of itself is super cool. I love the car. I love the whole idea of it, this just unhinged version of what is a very, very cool GT3 racer, but also cool is how they transport it. Look at this Unimog. This thing is nuts. I love Unimogs. I think they're awesome. You never really get to see them around, especially in the Chicagoland area, because, well, let's be honest, they are a bit large, but this is just nuts. Huge, chunky tires, and they actually lift this car with a crane, which is also absolutely insane. Didn't get to see that this morning. I don't think I'll get to see it on my adventures at all, but I certainly hope to. But in terms of like a two-car solution, or almost a Hot Wheels team transport, if you will, you got the hauler, you got the racer, and that is awesome. And here's something very special that's hidden around the track that not many people have noticed. This is a Ferrari. You might not be able to tell, but it certainly is. Underneath, it is a 550, but it has been coach built by Zagato, one of the most famous Italian coach builder makers out there. They've built this incredible body. I think there are only 3 of these in the world, so this is incredibly rare, and to get to see it out here today, I actually saw it driving around this morning, and I had to double take for a second. I'm like, is that a Zagato? And it absolutely is. And here is the front end, absolutely spectacular. I mean, what's not to like about anything Zagato designs? It's always super crazy, super cool, and it actually looks very modern. It looks more like something from the mid to late 2000s than it does from the 90s. Zagato has always really been ahead of their time when it comes to that sort of thing, and well, this is certainly a perfect example of that. And over here at Subaru Motorsports, we have what are probably the 4 coolest Subarus ever made. Starting with this, the 1983 Family Huckster Travis Pastrana's car, makes 862 horsepower. It's this newest Gymkhana car, doing all these crazy stunts, and to help with that and to look absolutely awesome, it has these active aerodynamics all over the place, absolutely unlike anything that has ever been seen on a 1983 Legacy GL wagon. but I've seen this a couple of times at the Chicago Auto Show and over at SEMA. So this thing has been on the channel before, which is awesome. So that's nice. And next to it, we have a 22B STI, the most iconic Subaru in history. This was Subaru's homologation car, and it was just a special, hardcore, rally-inspired version of the Impreza of the time. And to tell that it's a 22B, well, it's a two-door instead of a four. These cars are incredibly rare and incredibly expensive. Nice examples of these go to upwards of $400,000 for a Subaru from the 90s. That's pretty crazy. And walking over, we have a couple of modern Subarus, the S209 edition WRX STI, very special car that, but also special is this, the WRX Project Midnight, built by Dirtfish. And this is just nuts. This is Travis Pastrana's and Scott Speed's newest car. This car went up the hill at Goodwood earlier this year, nearly set the record, which is insane. Got to see this thing on track a little bit earlier, and we'll get to see it more throughout the weekend, and particularly in the next video, which you guys should definitely keep a lookout for. But this is absolutely nuts. From all angles, it is a time attack monster, just designed to go about the business of going to any course and just setting records. Kind of like the GT Raw spec in a way. That's cool. And here we have two very cool cars. Got a dark red Lamborghini Revuelto, very, very nice, as well as this absolutely insanely spec'd McLaren Senna, the white with the blue and the orange accents. Got the orange Kiwi on the side there, and these very bold blue wheels and orange center locks. Very cool spec right here. And also the painted roof. Never seen a Senna with one of those before. That is an extremely cool, rare option from MSO, as you can see. And, well, that's a very nice spec. I do actually quite like this. I wasn't sure initially how I'd think of it, but it does look very, very cool. One thing that's particularly crazy about this year's Velocity Invitational is this, the Jaguar D-Type. I have never seen a D-Type before. And I'm saying that this is one of the craziest parts because this isn't the only D-Type. There's a second one, and a third one, and a fourth, and a fifth, and a sixth, and a seventh. Of the 71 D-Types ever made, we have, well, nearly 10% of them here. And considering that they were built, well, back in the 50s, many of them were crashed, raced, maybe stolen, I don't know, or just locked away in barns, never to be seen again. Getting to see 7 of them here is, well, something particularly special, including this one. This is the car that won the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1956. This particular car, as a matter of fact. And yeah, this is motorsport history, motorsport royalty. The D-Type was remembered as one of the great sports car racers of the 1950s. So to get to see 7 examples that have raced all over the world is a real honor. And to accompany all of the D-Types, we also have some C-Types as well. Super Special Cars was obviously the predecessor to the D-Type, and there is one particular one that I do like, which is missing right now. I got to see it a few times earlier, but that was Jenson Button's car, Formula One world champion. I'm sure we'll get to see it in the next video, but for now, still 3, which 3 ain't bad, especially when they're Jaguar C-Types. And speaking of motorsport royalty, or at least cars that pay homage to them, here we are at the Ford GT exhibit. This is absolutely nuts. We have so many incredibly special GTs, from the 05 to the 06 Heritage, or at least multiple examples of the 06 Heritage, with the extremely iconic Gulf livery, cool stripeless cars like these two here, yet another Heritage, as well as, well, another Heritage. A couple newer GTs. This liquid blue is very nice. This is the launch color of the Ford GT. Yet another Heritage edition, also in the Gulf colors. I should get a Heritage edition counter going up. I don't know. And this very nice white one with this amazing gloss carbon option here. But the pinnacle of all of these, the absolute creme de la creme, is this, the all-new Ford GT Mark IV, the end of the line of the Ford GT. This is a track car variant of the GT, the ultimate track car variant, different to the Mark II. This thing is absolutely nuts. I mean, look at that turbofan disc right there. That should tell you what this car is immediately. This is a serious, serious bruiser. And I actually got to see this on track earlier, and I think we'll get to see this in the next episode. So once again, stay tuned for that. But just look at the aero back here. It is lower, it is wider than the road car which spawned it. this is just absolutely insane. And to get to see it moving around on track, doing some crazy stuff, is also really cool, which you'll get to see in the next video. And to dig at Ferrari just a little bit, well, look at that plate. I don't need to tell you what that means. Ford GT owners have some pretty creative ideas for their license plates, I'll tell you that. And there's yet another 250 TR. Absolute craziness. And that's about it for today. Thank you so much for watching, guys. This was only the first day, and so I'll have at least one more video coming out from Velocity, maybe two. We'll see what happens over the course of the weekend. But in the next video, guys, I want to share with you some of the track action and a lot of the crazy stuff that is going in and around there, including that car back there, because I'm telling you, that is insane. But until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. This was me, Patrick, the King of Cars. Thank you for watching. Take care.
Hey everybody, this is Patrick, the King of Cars. You're not seeing things, this is real. Right here, there are two of these Ferrari 308 GTBs famously found in, what's that thing? Magnum PI. Magnum PI was where these cars were at, and this is them right here. These are both of the Magnum PI 308s right here. As you can see, one of them looks red, has wheels. This one, also red, has wheels. And if you look behind you, you'll see a third one. This one was not in Magnum PI, but it does in fact have wheels. The cool thing about this is it can go 300 miles an hour in Forza Horizon 4. The other cool thing about it is they put the transponder at the front of the car so they can cheat and say they got to the finish line first with the highest transponder, whatever. You know, computers and stuff. Brokey couldn't even afford a stripe. It's a 430, mate.